Hey friends, my name's Georgie. I'm a functional breathing coach, Genis Breath ambassador, and physiotherapist in training, as well as an all-round curious being when it comes to the human condition and especially women's health. I'm so excited to welcome you back to the new and improved version of the Just Breathe podcast. And this is my new mini-series, Do It Like a Lady. I'll be interviewing inspirational women to crush women's health taboos and make women visible, as well as to gain access to world-class expertise on the most pondered questions us women find ourselves asking when it comes to our health. And with such a gender data gap we're seeing in the world, it really is no surprise. I can't think of a better person than today's guest to kick off the Do It Like a Lady series. Jenny Clark is a good friend of mine, an inspirational woman. Every time I talk to Jenny, I walk away with a golden nugget of wisdom, and I know you're going to walk away with one too after listening to today's conversation. Jenny Clark is the founder of the Wild Times Retreats, and the Wild Times was created to help you reconnect to yourself through reconnecting with nature via the Wild Times pillars. And I absolutely love these. They're threaded through every single retreat, which is what makes the Wild Times so authentic, so grounded, and so unique. Those pillars are rest, play, explore, and flow. 4 things that every single person needs a little bit more of in this overstimulated modern world we find ourselves living in. I'm particularly excited for today's conversation with Jenny because Jenny and I are teaming up to run our very own retreat. And this is a retreat just for females, and it's all about female breathing and movement. We'll also be delivering educational seminars around the menstrual cycle and peri and post menopause, teaching self-regulation techniques to come down from that constant state of stress, to refocus, to get better sleep, to improve digestion, and so much more. We might even be throwing a little bit of a cold exposure experience in there, but don't worry, there'll be a sauna waiting for you right after your cold dip. Most importantly, we're aligning our retreat with all of those 4 pillars that are so important: to rest, to play, to explore, and to find some flow. I know you're going to love this one. If you particularly enjoy this conversation, do go ahead and send it to a friend, a family member, anyone you know who might benefit from hearing this chat. Before kicking off today's episode, I do just want to give a quick shout out to Salt. Salt are flying the flag when it comes to eco period products. They're offering reusable period cups, discs, and leak-proof underwear for a comfortable, sustainable life. They are on a mission to end panicked sprints to the bathroom, sweaters tied around waists, and sleeping on towels. And you can hear me smiling as I'm recording this because I know the feeling from personal experience, and I'm sure some of you listeners do as well. And it's such a relief to see a company that can offer both that sustainability, but also no waste, no leaks, and no worries. It's so important to have high quality period products to keep you comfortable during that time of the month. Okay, I think we're about ready to dive into today's conversation. I know you're going to love it. Do go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you never miss out on an inspirational conversation. All right, this is episode 63 of Just Breathe with Jenny Clark.
Hi, babes. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's really cool to have you on the podcast. It's cool to be starting the podcast back up, taking a break, my whole academia. So it's good to be back on.
Love that. I love your other episodes. So
Oh,
good.
thank you. So for anyone that doesn't know from my last few social media posts, Jenny is the incredible founder of the Wild Times, the most amazing retreat company with, as I was saying before we started recording, just the most grounded and authentic retreats I think I've ever experienced. Which is why I love them. I mean, the Wild Times just sums it up perfectly, I think. Um, because we're all learning about both just the scientific and the experiential benefits of being in nature. But I kind of want to get started by asking you what brought you to create the Wild Times? What was it, a big shift for you in your life, or was it an idea that was bubbling for ages and then gradually happened? Like, how did it happen?
So, um, yeah, I registered the company name probably 4 or 5 years ago now, I think. And I just sort of had this idea in the back of my head. And it sort of came from how can I combine like all the things that I love doing the most and hopefully turn that into making a living out of it. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I love yoga, I love teaching yoga, I love floating around on the water, I love being outside, sitting around a campfire, meeting new people. And yeah, basically I was like, oh, I'll combine all that and it'll be the Wild Times. So that's sort of like very basically where it came from. And then I think as well, like when I was really little, my parents used to run an outdoor centre, like outdoor activities centre for kids up in Northumberland. And so I had really early memories of canoeing like in the west coast of Scotland and like my mum rock climbing with my brother like attached to her. So I think my dad still leads like kids on expeditions around the world. So yeah, it's sort of I think it's been in the blood. My brother like fixes rivers, so he's a bit of an outdoorsy bloke too. He's actually come and run some bushcraft workshops on our retreats as well, which is really nice. But yeah, and the whole idea really behind it and the sort of the thing that I'm trying to get across in all of the retreats is all about connection. And I think a lot of the problems we have or the issues we have in our lives in the world at the moment is because we are disconnected. And so the Wild Times is really about getting people connected to themselves and their bodies because we're all up in our brains all the time, like ding, 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 ding. So it's like, let's come down into the wisdom of the body and like reconnect with ourselves. And also connecting to other humans, which, everyone's like hybrid working at home. Everyone was locked down for 2 years. Everyone's hyper connected through phones and devices, but we're not, like we need face-to-face human interactions. We need to sit in a circle around a campfire. We need to be able to like share our experiences with other people and like touch other people and stuff. So yeah, that was really important to me. So it's like connection to yourself, connection to others, and also connection to nature. And I think people, Jacques Cousteau says people protect what they love. And I think if you don't know and love, like if you don't know nature, then why are you going to protect it? Why are you going to love it? Why are you going to look after it? So I think yeah, and also people more and more at the moment are aware of this disconnection, I think, and coming back to realizing that it's quite simple and just like hugging trees and swimming and walking and being outside and looking around you, just breathing in pine trees literally lowers like your blood pressure and your stress levels. So yeah, that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah, 100%. And oh, I got shivers actually when you said that quote of you don't protect what you don't know, I think it was.
Yeah, people protect what they love. Yeah,
People protect what they love. Yes, I sort of said the opposite, but yeah, people protect what they
meant
love.
the same thing.
And the same thing. That's incredible, and that's actually got me thinking towards our own bodies as well. And I know you said connection to self, but of course, for people that follow me, They know that I'm super, super into women's health and really shouting the fact that women are not small men and that need that self-awareness in a world that is absolutely dominated by a gender data gap, where everything that's prescribed, everything that is mainstream is actually suited to a male body, not a female. And so that actual connection to self is way more important than I think anyone else realizes. And it's really interesting that a lot of people, tell me if you agree with this, Jenny, that a lot of people, they seem to sort of try and outsource their de-stress techniques, so that they'll get this really maybe expensive supplement that's like a pill, or they'll get, you know, a smoothie that's got things in, or even like a board that's like meant to stimulate the same electrical charge as grounding or standing in grass. And what I think you bring to the table is just that beautiful simplicity of, why don't you just stand on the grass? You don't actually need the board that costs £400. Just stand on the grass, eat a real apple, right?
Yeah, I think that's also that the world is always trying to sell us the solution to the problems and stuff, basically. So and products to fix your life. But I mean, it's like with you with the breathing, it's something so simple that we do all the time, but it has such a massive impact on yourself and your life. And it's that thing of like realizing that these tools are really, really simple and you can just do them. And and like just simplifying massively, basically. That's what I think is very important.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the connection thing, that something when I've been on your retreats and taught on them and experienced them and everything, is watching people just talk. And I know when we first met, literally we'd never met each other before at all. We just met in this random hotel ready to work on your retreat together, which was just because I was a last minute replacement, which was just the luckiest sort of gamble of my life. So I was like, I don't know anything about this, but it sounds incredible, and let's go. And both people, the girl who suddenly wasn't available for personal reasons, and you, I've stayed friends with the whole time, and it's just the most amazing, crazy situation of that. I remember getting there, putting my bags down, and I was going through a stressful time, and just chatting. I think we got no sleep that night, chatted till like 1 morning.
Yeah, I was like waiting for you in the hotel bar, and it's like this crazy massive house in the Lake District, this hotel that's built in like the 1600s, and then you just walk in with your rucksack. I'm like, hi, should we go to my room?
Yeah, literally to the outside.
They were like,
crazy situation.
Get into our little twin beds, and we're like, blah, 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 until like 1 a.m.
Yeah, but that is the thing, though, is that when you get into nature, as soon as I got the train at the time, I remember I got off that train, I could smell the air, it was fresh. I was living in London at the time. I'm just like, oh my goodness, solace, just and
yeah,
it just made me drop my guard. And I think meeting you and knowing that we were about to do a lot of yoga and movement and eat some great food, all those kind of beautiful things, getting in touch with the water, and the lakes is just a magical place anyway. It does just make you drop your guard down. And for anyone that's been paying attention to my Instagram post, I've had a lot of messages recently about self-regulation techniques. I'll tell everyone that your body literally has 2 questions that defines every aspect of your health. And that is, am I safe or am I not? And if the answer is no, none of your really important bodily functions are going to operate optimally. None. So you're working as a low-level version of yourself. And unfortunately, I think that is about 90% of the population, maybe 95. I'm not sure. Do those people realize that, though? I'm not sure. And that's where awareness comes in, which is what I think your retreats offer. Do you ever find people on your retreat get sort of not fearful, but have these moments of stuff coming up they never realized before?
Yeah, I think, well, one, I sort of see it like a bit of a transformation, because people arrive and everyone's looking around like,
yeah,
oh God, is everyone going to be like a weird bunch of hippies,
and
it's, yeah, it's just, which is always, whenever you do something new, you're like, everyone's going to be weird, like, and And I go around and sort of ask people that what's one word that you're feeling now, and sometimes people will say like, oh yeah, a bit apprehensive, or
Yeah.
curious, or whatever, and then I ask them at the end, and they haven't said the same thing. They've said that, calm, happy, grounded, and some achy and tired can be one too, because maybe they haven't been doing that much yoga and paddleboarding before in a weekend. But yeah, I think I do see like a sort of shift when people relax and just and yeah, stuff definitely comes up. I think when you actually like give yourself this like gift of headspace and time to yourself, it's yeah, I mean, it gives you perspective on a lot of things as well, because often many of us so many of us are rubbish at resting. We don't properly rest. We might like binge Netflix. I mean, I do this too. I'm not like preaching like I'm like a full, I'm just enlightened when it comes to rest. But you're actually properly taking time out for yourself to do nothing and to really allow yourself to like repair and restore and like integrate new ways of like learning and doing and being. And yeah, and stuff comes up for people as well. Yeah, they can be emotional times, because especially I find in the yin yoga and the slower practices, because you get people when they arrive and they're so fidgety and they can't and when you allow yourself to like be like, know that you are in a space where you are safe and held to feel whatever comes up for you, because we literally like hold trauma and emotions in our bodies, which sounds like super woo woo and super like witchy, but everybody should read this book called The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, and it's written by this doctor who he was sort of the first person to realize and diagnose what PTSD was in US soldiers after the Vietnam War. And we literally hold trauma and emotions like in our tissues and in our bodies. And so when you come to something and you are told that you are safe and you are held in this space to relax and to let go, it can be like, because even if you think about it, like when you're closed down and like you're like this, right? So you're like hunched over, because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting like your heart and stuff. So when you go and open up, for a lot of people it can be like, because it sounds witchy, but like I see it happen all the time. And with my I've experienced it too, that it's about like feeling and experiencing everything with not just in your mind and just trying to rationalize things, and allowing yourself to like feel your feelings and acknowledge them and truly feel them and let them pass through you, which, because we all try and run away from them. Bit of a tangent there, but yeah.
No, 100%, and I love the point you made, and I think it's really important to make it as well. And I try and say it as much as I can, that, I teach what I teach because I believe in it, not because I'm a magician at it. There are some days when I forget to track my cycle. There are days when I don't get a chance to do breath work. And, on those days, sometimes I even go, George, who are you to teach this stuff when you've missed it today? What are you doing? And then you're like, oh, now I'm just making myself worse. Okay. At least I have that self-awareness. And that's where I think the power is that it doesn't matter. No one's ever going to be perfect at it in a world that's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, because it is. But the point is that knowledge really is power, which is why, like Jenny said, go and read that book, go and learn about these things and speak to like-minded people, to have conversations like we're having now, to be able to go away and get curious about yourself rather than waiting till something goes wrong. And this is what I'm really learning as I'm going into healthcare as a physiotherapist. Instead of waiting until you're at that point of a clinical diagnosis, when actually you're being told it's chronic and we just have to manage this, which sounds really serious when we're just on a podcast talking about retreats. But it's so true that actually something like a Wild Times retreat is not just a fun little getaway, as much as it is. It's also literally a preventative strategy from long-term illness, taking a weekend once every couple months to come down to recharge, to learn more about your own body, which really brings me on to the exciting concept, and people know because it'll be in the introduction of this episode, that this is the first retreat specifically for women only. And it's the first collaborative retreat with the two of us, which I'm so excited about. And I think this is really, really special in terms of women really supporting women. It upsets me that we still live in an age where women cannot stand in a completely mixed room and talk about everything they want to talk about, but we do. And to invite women into a space where we can say, hey, let's talk about those period cramps you've been having. Let's talk about perimenopause and the fact that you can't sleep because you're waking up with night sweats. And let's have it in a lighthearted way, but let's also give you some tools that can actually help to reduce those. And let me give you a paper that's going to prove that from the literature and the science. And there's something, I think, about what you said about that space holding people, that for females, again, in this world we live in right now, which does have such a gender data gap where women are not invisible, but they are not mentioned in many things that we call mainstream. I think this is so important. In terms of starting a business as a woman for you, and that crux of being a well-being practitioner. So of course you have this self-awareness of I need a work-life balance, etc. And then starting your own business, how, from being self-employed, I know the background of this as well, but I want to know from you, how has that been for you?
Yeah, starting your own business is a lot. It's a whole thing. Yeah, I mean, like everyone tells you it's really hard, and you're like, yeah, I know it's hard, but like it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be that hard. And then you're doing it and you're like, yeah, this is really fucking hard. No, I think because it's full on. I think it's when you're creating something that you love and care and believe in so much as well, that almost like it literally becomes like your baby. And some people would say that you shouldn't be this emotionally attached to your business. Those people may be right. I don't know. I'm not one of them. For me, it's become this like other entity that I've like brought into the world that now I care about so much, because I know that it does good in the world, and I know that it like has a positive impact on people's lives, and I've seen that happen, and it's so wonderful to be able to facilitate that experience. I think that's that just always brings me back to it and always keeps me going, because I think, and as well, you hear all these like success stories of like, oh yeah, I make 20K a month now, and
oh gosh,
and I think one is I maybe I'm just not doing it right, but I think that there's actually something to be said for being honest about when you're doing it, that it's really hard. And I still do. Well, I still do. I actually really enjoy I do like freelance marketing and social media management for a few different brands. And I also teach yoga as well. So I have like some corporate and one-to-one clients, and I teach in some studios. So it's, which I love. Like, it's always lovely to have regular yoga stuff going on, especially. But I'm doing a few freelance jobs and running and setting up and nurturing the wild times at the same time. And I think I'm trying to get better at being more boundaried with my time and managing people's expectations, because I think that I can do all the things, but actually you do need support and help in these things. Even retreats are like pretty physical, because you're like teaching yoga and teaching paddleboarding and running around, but that's what I really love doing. So I mean, as a woman, I don't know if I could say anything about setting up a business like as a woman, because I haven't felt in any way that it has impacted me one way or the other. But I think that's also because having had like my mum, for example, like I was I was the first girl to go to Key Haven Sea Scouts when I was like 12 or something. Pretty cool, because my mum was like, yeah, I'll help sort out and like save this scout like hut if my daughter can come, because she's really sick of guides because all they're doing is like coloring in. I'm sure it's not like that anymore.
Nice.
But I was at Brownies and I was just coloring in, and I was like, I want to go kayaking. So I think that I've always had that model to me, and I've just been like, well, yeah, I'll go do these water sports and stuff. But I think if I hadn't have had that and hadn't have had that model to me, I would have found it harder.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess I'm asking you in an industry that is not male dominated. It's not, you're not in an office full of men, etc., and all those different things. And it's important as well for me to say that whenever I'm saying these kinds of terms, etc., as a woman or this, just to make sure that I'm not getting the eye rolls, and if I am, no worries. But it's that I'm not here to say, men are me. I absolutely love men. I have a wonderful boyfriend, all these things. What I'm so passionate about is just helping women to realize that they don't need to simply adhere to a mainstream average, when there's so much more they could be doing for themselves simply through self-awareness. So I think more what I'm talking about when I say as a woman is actually learning your own self-awareness, that even with other women, this is what I need. You're saying with boundaries, this is what I need, and I need to maybe say no to this, or I need to take a rest from this, which we're saying before we recorded, we're both yes people. And that, when I told you before that I took an opportunity and then actually had to politely decline it after like 2 days, because I realized I'd gone into my own patterning and was like, wait. And the first thought I had was, I've taken this while I'm in the first stage of my cycle, where my energy is high, I'm go, go, go. I still have to do this job when I'm in the later stage of my cycle, and my energy is like, no, no, no. So, this is so well. So it's more, I think it's more that self-awareness that I'm talking about. When I say woman, I guess I mean as a woman in a world of socialized norms.
On that, I would say that I'm very lucky that I now don't have like a full-time 9 to 5 job, because so I can, I'm very like free to make my own schedule, my own hours, and it's very flexible. So, like yesterday I went and got a massage at 4 p.m. Which was amazing. And I go to hot yoga like most days at the moment, and that's really great and helps me a lot. And because I really noticed, like, even just like listening to my cycle of some times of the month where I'm like, that, like the first of my period, I'm like, I could really do with just being in bed and working from bed, but I don't want to go anywhere or do anything. And then, like literally tracking your life a bit around that. And for me, I can schedule things around that, I think is great. But yeah, it's like sort of having that awareness of where your energy is and where it goes and everything. Is super, super important and super helpful. And I'm so excited about like doing this retreat with you. I'm going to like teach some classes, but also I'm excited to learn from you as well. And, this being like the first female breathing course, and for, us all to learn more about hormones and women's health and your cycles and the menopause and the perimenopause, and breath work and tools to like regulate your nervous system, to help you cold water swimming, which we're going to do. And before we go in a sauna, I'm very excited about the wood-fired sauna that's going to be on the edge of the lake for us all. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to all of that, but helping people rest is super important to me, and learning how to rest and like honoring your body and your cycles of like when you need fucking rest. And then also resilience as well, like building up resilience and pushing yourself out your comfort zone and doing the scary thing to help create new neural pathways in your brain to rewire it to make that less scary next time. And I think doing like this cold water thing with you on the retreat in a few weeks, and a lot of the breathwork stuff you're going to do, I think it's going to help with all of those things. So yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you got me thinking there that the really important concept that is important even, you know, for anyone who this speaks to, in that in order to be resilient, you have to learn to rest. And by saying learning to rest, I'm not exaggerating there, in that most of us need to learn to rest because we're in such a state of hyperadrenalized overstimulation all the time, whether we know it or not, that it's actually now a skill. And the thing is, the world isn't slowing down anytime soon. And I've experienced that. I know you've experienced that. And so that's why we create these kind of things, to involve and introduce people to those interventions. Cold water exposure, especially, I've done a lot of cold water stuff, and I know you've done some cold water stuff as well. The benefit in terms of bringing your mind back to the present through a tiny bit of controlled stress, I don't think there's any other feeling like it. And especially, it's important that we have access to that sauna, of course. And yes, it's a bit of luxury, but it is also important because you know then that you're in a safe, controlled environment where, yes, you can get cold and then you can instantly get warm again. So that's really important. But being able to prepare yourself mentally and overcome that block, because everyone will have a block before going in, is really, really powerful. And to be able to take something like that home in, well, what other blocks could you overcome when you get home following this retreat? I think that's something really, really powerful as well. For people on your past retreats, I've even seen people where walking up that hill on a hike you've taken them on was a huge win, and you'll celebrate that win with them. And, or paddleboarding for the first time was a massive win, and you'll celebrate it with them, etc. I think that's really, really important. How does that feel for you when you're like seeing someone experience something for the first time they've never done before?
Yeah, no, it's really lovely. People, yeah, it's nice when people message me and they're like, I've got a paddleboard now and like I'm going. But one of my favorites is a place in the lakes where we take everyone for this swim in the waterfall, and you get people, they're like, not going in there. No, I'll just come watch. And we'll bring snacks and tea or whatever, or I take everyone for an afternoon tea afterwards. But yeah, and then getting everyone in the waterfall, they have to like scramble down a little bit and then go in it. And I've had people being like, I am Iceman. And we had this great guy who was like in his 70s, and his daughters had bought him this trip for his birthday, and he was the one guy on this one retreat with loads of women, and he had the best time, but he did not think that he was going in a waterfall. And he was like, can't believe this. My daughters think they've sent me on a calm thing and I'm in a bloody waterfall. No, he actually really enjoyed it. But no, it's super nice to like see people. And yeah, there's that thing of like, afterwards reminding yourself, oh, I did that really hard thing. So yeah, I can do this hard thing, Yeah.
But also there's an element of that doing that hard thing in nature, in a controlled environment where you do know, inherently you're safe, otherwise we wouldn't do it, that afterwards you actually tend to relax a lot deeper. For anyone, I'm sure by now I've heard of Wim Hof. If you've watched, what's it, Freeze the something that was on BBC?
Yeah, Freeze the Fear.
Freeze the Fear, was it? Yeah. That old cold program on BBC. I'm sure you'll all have heard of Wim Hof through that. And they really speak to the fact that the benefit is that from that cold part of stress, number one, you have access to parts of your brain you don't usually have access to, because you finally switch that chatterbox off, that prefrontal cortex. It can quieten down for a minute so you can actually access what you really want to hear, those really important things that you usually don't have clarity of mind to focus on. But also you come to a deeper state of relaxation after a mild bit of controlled good stress, just like going for a run, etc. So yeah, really, really important and really, really beneficial. I know we don't want to go on for too long, but I do want to talk a little bit with you about movement, You always include movement on your retreats, usually yoga. I know you have guest practitioners come in. I've been lucky enough to be one of them. Why is movement such a central part of every single one of your retreats? I know it's important. You get, people get up and they get moving straight away. Is there a reason behind that? Is it coincidence?
um So yeah, sometimes in the opening circle, sometimes I don't want to give away all my tricks, but I literally make people like shake around and move around. And even just shaking is good because you literally shake stress and tension out of your body, and it puts you in your body. You can start to feel into it because often we're like all up in our brains and we're ignoring the body. So yeah, and then the yoga like as a mix. So I do vinyasa mostly in the mornings, which is sort of like a nice flowy practice where you like link your breath with your movement, and then the evenings are yin, which is slower. You hold each posture for 3 to 10 minutes, usually like 3 to 5 minutes, and you use a lot of cushions and blankets, and it's all lying and sitting down. It's sort of deep resting, deep stretching, and then yoga nidra, which is basically lying down yogic sleep. But then, yeah, we do hikes and walks, and have different, people like surprise workshops that happen. There can be a real range from making herbal teas to bushcraft and canoeing over to an island to do bushcraft and learn how to light fires, to breath work with you, paddleboarding, wild swimming, surfing. So yeah, there's a real variety. But I mean, we were hunter gatherers, and we're supposed to be walking and moving. And yeah, I mean, my boyfriend's gonna laugh when he sees this because he's like a Duracell bunny in comparison to me, whereas I'm more sort of part sloth. But for someone who's talking about moving, but yeah, we're supposed to be moving, and I think it can help you. For me, I really find that just walking helps to literally untangle my thoughts and my brain. So, and a lot of people find that as well. There's another really interesting book called Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, and he talks a lot about why we can't pay attention now individually and, collectively. And it blew my mind, this book. But he talks a lot about like ADHD and he talks about how, think about kids, when kids want to run around all the time, but then at school you're like forcing them to sit down, and of course they're playing up and they're shouting. And you put a horse in a stable. If you leave it in a stable, it starts swaying like this. Like animals in the zoo will go mental because they're in enclosed spaces. Like, we are not supposed to be sitting at a desk 9 to 5, like, driving in a car to work, to sit down all day, to drive somewhere else, to then lie on the sofa all night. And I work from home quite a lot, but if I make myself go out for like walks before work, so I commute back to my house, or at lunchtime, or I go for a cycle, like I love cycling too, it's going to be good for obviously it's good for your physical health, but it's just very good for your brain, your mental health. Like, we are supposed to be moving. So I think any ways that you can, if you have like, if people have like business calls, whatever, but you can do them while you're walking. Like, that's why I always want people to just call me so they can be outside and walk and work at the same time. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I love everything you just said. And, as someone training to be a physiotherapist, I'm learning more and more and more and more how actually a lack of movement that then eventually leads to things like osteoporosis, arthritis, heart problems, blood pressure issues, etc. All of the things could lead to not being able to move. And from that, you then decrease the possibility of connecting with nature because you then rely on someone else to take you outside. Which is huge. And it's that thing where some people will say, don't you think you're being a bit dramatic? And I'll actually reply, no, because it's really what you do now that defines what you will be like in 10, 20 years. And it's just these small daily choices. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. Like we said at the beginning, it's simple, and it's so much simpler than you think. And that's a real message for anyone that, again, this is speaking to, that maybe hasn't booked onto this retreat and is thinking about coming. If you want to learn simple self-regulation tools specified to female physiology right now for this retreat, then the whole point of these teachings is practical interventions, is just giving you an actual experiential education of, it's easier than you think to take back control of your experience, your ability to be focused, which I know that book is on my list and I cannot wait to read it. That and you'll know more than this because you've read it. Was I listened to a podcast, I think it was Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. He interviewed the guy, I think, and he was saying your ability to focus is inherently connected with your happiness and your ability to feel fulfilled in life, because if you don't feel focused, you don't feel like you're going anywhere, and then you lose hope and it leads to depression and anxiety and all that, and that's huge, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, basically I think everyone would think, oh, the reason we can't focus and pay attention anymore is because of our phones, and our phones are a big part of that, and social media and technology. But he has like 12 reasons in the books that are a lot more factors. So I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I think also just on the focus thing and tech, I really encourage people on the retreats to have a bit of a digital detox, whether that's like, I have done a retreat before, it's a full digital detox, but I don't take away people's phones, but I say, okay, can we I'd encourage you to either turn it off for one day or leave it on airplane until midday every day, or, don't look at it first thing in the morning. And just because literally we are so, and, I work running like loads of social media stuff as well. So it's massively for myself as well. We're constantly like distracted in the ding, ding, ding. And phones have literally been invented by, all these smart Google engineers and Apple people
Actively wanting to distract you. Right?
Yeah, but it's literally, they've designed these features, like even the scroll down and then it refreshes with new things, and the fact that notifications are red is that it's been designed to be like a slot machine, and slot machines are like 3 to 4 times more addictive than other forms of gambling. So you have this like tool that is everyone, also they've been around for like 5 seconds. Like, remember when everyone got like iPhones and it was like, oh, my phone plays music, amazing.
My
and
Nokia.
Yeah, well, Nokia's Snake, marvelous. But then the reality is, like, most of us now aren't happy with our relationship, like with our phones and our devices. So rather than being like, this cool thing plays music and takes photos, it now controls us and our attention. And like, it's just something that I'm becoming more and more aware of. And I try and do like screen-free Sundays and stuff a lot to actually like turn it off on a Saturday night. Because that's a whole other thing. But it's about sort of it's about like protecting your brain space.
No, it really is. But it's self-empowerment as well, and it's you just got me thinking the equation, a great equation I was told for addiction is that cortisol, that stress hormone that's getting very famous now, plus adrenaline, let's call that stimulation. Whenever you're stimulated, you get a little burst of adrenaline, equals addiction. Cortisol plus adrenaline equals addiction, because you get the stimulation, you get a bit of stress of, need to look at that. Good stress, bad stress is still stress. How interesting that we're about to run a retreat where we learn to refocus through things like cold exposure, breath. We learn to self-regulate through the breath and movement, and connecting with nature is literally taking back your power. And I don't think there's anything more powerful than that. So if not this retreat, a Wild Times retreat, please. I know we need to wrap up, Jenny, but honestly, I just love everything you said, and being so honest as well. And that really is something that I shout about your retreats: the honesty, the authenticity, the what did I say before fluffiness, the non-fluffiness of your retreat. Yeah. It's not a turn up and pretend to be well. It's no, we're really going to explore this stuff in a gentle way, but in a grounded and authentic way. And I really love that.
Oh, thanks, love. Well, yeah, I'm just glad you walked into that bar that day. It's been so. No, it's great. I also just having I've met so many lovely people through retreats, and you're one of the top ones who's become a friend from doing workshops on the retreats, you know, and it's so lovely. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to being in the lakes in a few weeks with you, and just looking, even just the view from the property in the mornings, just going out and doing like a little morning meditation, or you bring your tea and coffee and just sit outside, and the view is out like over the lawns, down over Coniston Water, the lake, and out to the mountains. And you have it some days where you sit there and the cloud might clear, and then you can notice that there's a new waterfall coming down, or, you know, just having like 20 minutes of something, gazing out on mountains, I think is very good for your soul. So yeah, I'm excited to be back at that place. It's really beautiful.
We have to give Beth a quick shout out to finish
Oh
up.
yeah,
Beth, the free range chef. If you don't follow
Queen
her,
of Turnips.
you should. Queen of Turnips. I am so excited to eat her food. I've been reading her blogs, and oh my goodness, I just cannot wait. She is providing the nourishment on the retreat, and I literally cannot wait. I'm so excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, God, I love Beth.
Amazing. Oh well, Jenny, it's been an absolute, honestly, as always, pleasure. And I just can't wait. I can't wait for the retreat. Until then, right?
Yeah. I can't wait. See you soon, babes. Bye.